The Christmas party glittered like a lie dressed in gold, chandeliers dripping light onto polished marble floors, while laughter echoed too loudly, as if everyone were trying to convince themselves they were happy. And in the center of it all stood Eleanor Whitmore, her hands trembling so badly she had to press the pen down with both palms, just to keep it from slipping, mascara streaking silently down her cheeks as the final signature curved across the divorce papers laid out on a silver tray beside half-empty champagne flutes. And no one noticed the way her breath fractured. No one noticed because tonight wasn't about her pain, it was about her humiliation, about the spectacle of a woman being discarded in public by the man who once swore to love her forever. Her husband, Nathan Whitmore, smiling politely as if this were merely a business transaction, leaning close enough to whisper, "Let's not make a scene," while his friends pretended not to watch, and his new girlfriend pretended not to smirk, and Eleanor wondered how love could rot so completely that it smelled like pine-scented candles and betrayal. How a marriage could end not in a quiet room, but under mistletoe, with strangers, clapping softly as if she'd just signed an autograph, instead of surrendering her life. She remembered when she met Nathan years ago, when he was charming and ambitious but broke, when she paid for dinners without complaint, when she listened to his dreams with genuine belief, when she quietly invested in his ideas without ever asking for credit, when she wore simple dresses and cheap shoes because she didn't need attention, only love. And she remembered how the moment success kissed him, gratitude vanished, replaced by entitlement, by impatience, by that look he now gave her, the look of a man who believed he was upgrading, not abandoning. Someone laughed nearby, a glass shattered. Carols played softly in the background, and Eleanor felt detached from her body, like she was watching herself from above. This woman in an elegant green dress that hid how thin she'd become, how sleepless her nights were, how heavy her secrets lay inside her chest. Because what none of them knew, what not a single person in that glittering room could imagine, was that Eleanor Whitmore was not broken, not powerless, not dependent, and certainly not poor, because years before Nathan ever tasted success, she had inherited and multiplied an empire, so vast that entire cities moved with her decisions, and she had hidden it deliberately, choosing anonymity over arrogance, love over leverage, loyalty over control, believing foolishly that a man who loved her wouldn't need to know her, worth to respect it. "Sign here," the lawyer murmured gently, his eyes flicking between her and Nathan with professional boredom. And Eleanor signed, tears dropping onto the paper like punctuation marks at the end of a sentence she never wanted to write. And when she handed the pen back, a strange calm washed over her. Not relief, not rage, but clarity, the kind that arrives when there is nothing left to lose. And as Nathan shook hands and accepted congratulations as if he'd just closed a deal, Eleanor turned and walked away, heels echoing across the floor, every step carrying the weight of memories and the promise of something else, something colder, sharper, inevitable. Outside, snow fell gently, the kind that made the world look clean even when it wasn't. And Eleanor stood alone under the lights, letting the cold sting her skin, as if to remind herself she was still alive. And she thought of the private vaults, the offshore accounts, the companies registered under names no one could trace back to her, the billions sleeping quietly while she played the role of a supportive wife. And for the first time in years, she smiled, not because she was happy, but because she was awake. Inside the ballroom, Nathan laughed loudly, convinced he had won, convinced that tonight marked his freedom, never realizing that the woman he had just humiliated was the same woman who owned the hotel beneath his feet, the wine in his glass, and the future he was about to lose. And as Eleanor stepped into the waiting car, wiping her tears and straightening her spine, she whispered a promise to herself that no one else could hear. A promise not of revenge fueled by anger, but of justice guided by truth. Because sometimes the most powerful people are the ones no one notices until it's far too late. And if you're watching this story unfold and you want to see what happens when silence ends and strength finally speaks, Make sure you stay with us, subscribe to the channel, and don't miss the moment when the world discovers who Eleanor Whitmore really is. Morning broke over the city like nothing had changed. Traffic humming, screens flashing headlines, people rushing to lives that had no idea a quiet earthquake was already underway. Because for Eleanor Whitmore, the woman who had signed her divorce papers in tears beneath Christmas lights, this was not just a new day, but a reckoning long delayed. And as she stepped into the glass-walled boardroom, where only a handful of people knew her true identity, the air shifted instantly. Chairs sliding back, conversations stopping, respect rising like a tide that had been held back for years. And when someone finally said, "Good morning, Madam Chairwoman," Eleanor felt the last thread tying her to humiliation snap cleanly. She placed the same pen she had used the night before onto the table. A quiet symbol that endings and beginnings often share the same tool. And miles away, Nathan Whitmore stood in his luxury apartment adjusting his tie, still riding the arrogance of his public victory, telling friends on the phone how freedom felt lighter than marriage, unaware that the company he bragged about was no longer his in any meaningful way, that shares had shifted silently in the dark, that banks he trusted answered to a name he never bothered to truly know. And by noon, the whispers began. Board alerts, market tremors, sudden resignations, until Eleanor Whitmore's name appeared on financial feeds like a ghost stepping into daylight, shocking analysts, freezing competitors, and sending Nathan's phone into a frenzy of unanswered calls.